Hello, this is Dr. Tony Nalda. I'm here to talk to you regarding our cool down phase passive molding, the sleep aids. Now, the sleep aids are actually something that we came up with years ago, and it's had an amazing effect on how we actually change the spine. I actually took x-rays of lots of different shapes and objects and pillows while people were laying on them. And what I found is that this size roll to have the great effect on restoring the cervical spine. So let's go over how we actually use this. So first thing is that we always start with 20 minutes. So when patients actually start with the sleep aid, they actually start with 20 minutes and they increase their time every day. Now, sometimes when patients have not much rigidity, they can actually go to an hour or so their first time using it. But the majority of people need to start with 20 minutes and increase their time. Most people don't want to try to sleep 4 or 5 hours on there the very first night because they're going to be sore if they're doing that. So the idea is they start slowly and increase their time. So they use it more like molding. They start for 20 minutes and then every night they try to fall asleep on it and see how long they go. If they only can go 40 minutes and they find themselves uncomfortable or they're feeling some effects like some numbing or some little bit of soreness, a little bit of pain, they roll off and use their normal pillow. And eventually the time will come longer and longer and longer to where they're actually being able to stay for 6 hours a night on it. Remember, we're using the creep principle here to try to creep the cervical spine back into its normal position with a long sustained force. So we don't want a lot of pressure, we just want very light pressure. You always start with a medium roll and then graduate to a firm. Never put somebody on a firm roll, even if you think they can tolerate it. Always start with medium and go to firm. You want the patient to be comfortable with the process, so we made the medium roll to be a graduating roll to the firm. When I did the x-rays, the firm roll was the actual roll that produced the best results. However, we have to work our way there. The medium roll produced good results as well. The firm was what I was really shooting for though. We want to use the large roll for the cervical and the small roll for the lumbar. Now, I know what you're saying is that how can everybody use the same size roll? Believe it or not, what I found, even with larger patients, that when we used a larger roll than what we found, we started creating some too much extension in the occiput and C1, and we put these people into extension. When we're putting them into extension, I believe we're starting to work like a Dakota traction unit, or working like those traction units that you can use on the cervical spine. Now, I'm not against traction. I don't think traction is a problem. The only difference is this is not a traction unit. This is designed to be a sleep aid or a sleep mold. We don't want to create traction. Our goal here is just simply to do one thing, is to creep the spine with a small force over a long period of time. Now, the lumbar roll, we use a small roll. Why? Because the lumbar curve is slightly less than the cervical curve. Also, the lumbar roll is the one that tends to create the most pain. So if somebody has pain in their low back while using the lumbar roll, you can always pull that one out sooner and keep the cervical roll on. So understand that they don't have to use both rolls all the time. If they're feeling pain in one area or discomfort in one area, they can eliminate one roll and keep the other. You want to go as long as you can possibly go. The longer you go on this, I believe the greater benefit is. I've had hundreds of chiropractors using these molds, and I've gotten so many testimonials how they've had struggled putting a curve back in their neck, and they use these rolls and they start sleeping on them, and how in 2 to 4 weeks they start getting a curve back in their neck. The sleep aids are extremely powerful tool in helping restoring the cervical lordosis. Now, there are some expectations here for people. That people under 5 feet could possibly use a small roll for their cervical spine as opposed to the large. If you're going to ever error, I would probably error small than error large. However, the large roll I tested on lots of different sized people, even below 5 feet, and I got good results using the large roll because it's not really that big. However, for very small people in 4 foot size, the cervical roll would be appropriate. Those are mostly going to be kids, and then we just don't use a lumbar roll, or you can use the firm small roll on the cervical spine and the soft small roll for the lumbar spine. That's an appropriate setup for a child. So they just use both smalls, and they can go firm on the neck initially because it's so much smaller that it doesn't feel like much anyway. Don't use a lumbar roll for anterior L5. We don't want to creep that anterior L5 any more forward unless they have a posterior T12. If they have a posterior T12, you can move that small roll to the T12 area to try to move that more anterior. However, understand that it's not a very strong roll. It's not a very strong force, so it's hard to move the thoracic spine forward when you're using such a small roll. But it does have a little bit of effect. For people that have pain, you can always start with a small roll in the cervical spine, like I said, but you want them to try to graduate to that large roll for your normal size or your normal adult. It's very common to experience a little bit of numbing or tingling during use. Just discontinue use at that time and then restart again the very next day. So here's some pictures. Again, here you can see the large roll for the cervical spine, the small roll for the lumbar spine. It's kind of set up appropriately. Here you can see a patient laying down on it, and it's kind of set up that the roll is right in their mid-cervical area, and the lumbar is right above their sacrum. We want that lumbar roll right around L5, L4 area. Let's go over the instructions. Indication is really to improve the sagittal spine. And instructions, this is done as a sleeping aid. It's meant to use while you sleep. It's meant to use for long term. Remember, this is not a traction unit. It's not meant to apply traction, just meant to apply a small force to create some creep. Repetitions, you do this once per day. Of course, you're only going to do it while you're sleeping. Now, if you take a nap, you can use it during your nap time too. It can also be done after any activity as a cool down. So if you're exercising and do a max T3, they can lay down your sleep aids for about 5 minutes as their body's cooling down. Remember, creep has a greater effect right after the muscles are already warmed up and tissues are warmed up. So let's go ahead and watch this video on how we perform the sleep aids, and then I'll be back to finish up this video.
Hello, this is Dr. Tony Nalda here. We're going to be talking to you today about how to use your cervical sleep aids or your cervical and lumbar rolls. Now, you get two sets of rolls in your package. You're going to get a red and a black. The red is medium, the black is firm. Which I'm going to go ahead and show you right here. Now, for this video, we're just going to use the red. And of course, for your home use, you're going to actually be using some covers with these. But the idea with these rolls is that you have a large one and a small one. The large one is designed to use for your neck, and the small one's designed to use for your low back. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the way it's kind of supposed to be. This is here used just above your waist on your low back, and this one here is going to be in the middle of your neck. And the idea is that these rolls are going to help restructure those curves, those proper curves that you're supposed to have in your neck and your low back. So go ahead and lay right down here. And it kind of just goes like that. And you want to position this cervical roll so your head can relax nice and soft on your bed. What you don't want to have is, go ahead and lift this up. You don't want to have it up here like this. That would be not a good way to wear your cervical, use your cervical roll. You want to have it just like that. And then this one, this lumbar roll, you want to have it just above your waist. You don't want to have it up here in your mid-back. You don't want to have it too low. Just kind of like this, right above your waist in the low back. And the idea is going to cause a small amount of force going upwards in the lumbar curve and a small amount of force going upward in the cervical curve. And the idea is that you just wear this at night while you're sleeping. It's a slow adaptation process. Your body will get kind of used to this. And again, I go over all the details about how you use these rolls in the introduction video. Make sure you watch that video before you actually use these rolls every single night to kind of build your tolerance over a slow period of time. Some alternate positions that your doctor can prescribe for you. Your doctor may prescribe you, go ahead and sit up for me. Your doctor may prescribe not using this roll at all and just using the cervical roll like this. This could be an alternate position. Sometimes, some cases will not use a lumbar roll at all. If your doctor prescribed that for you, go ahead and follow that. And another position is some cases the doctor will only prescribe a small roll for your cervical spine, like this, and no roll for your low back. So it could look like that. And of course, the very last case it's possible, it could be, come on up, it could be just a small roll for the low back, like that. Okay. So those are all the possibilities that could exist in setting up your home program for your cervical sleep aids, your cervical rolls. Just make sure you follow the doctor's prescription the way he prescribed it for you.
Now, performing these sleep aids in your office, they're not really viable in any sense of the way because you can't be on them long enough. However, sometimes when I do post adjustments and I have somebody that needs to sit or lay down for a while, I'll have them lay down on this while they're waiting. So, you know, some people need to kind of recover from an adjustment for a little period of time. I'll have them lay on these sleep aids for, you know, maybe 5 or 10 minutes while they're kind of letting their adjustment kind of sit into place before they get up and go. So I kind of use it more as a recovery tool than I use it as kind of a therapy. I believe there's some effect to that if you're adjusting the spine and then you're kind of using a passive mold to kind of hold it in place for a little bit of time with it just been sitting there, I believe that has a greater effect on the healing or recovery process of the adjustment. So I hope you enjoyed this video on how to perform the sleep aids. I think they're a very powerful tool in helping restoring the cervical spine. They apply a lot of sustained force for a long period of time, and it also can eliminate one thing that patients tend to do wrong, and that is sleep. They tend to use bad pillows, tend to prop their neck up, creating a cervical kyphosis, or really reducing that cervical lordosis, creating forward head posture. So eliminating this one cause of subluxation that occurs every single day in their life for 6 to 8 hours is a powerful way of helping restoring the cervical spine back into a normal position.